2 corners, 2 challenges, and only one path to victory. Gateway may look simple on paper, but this flat oval has proven to be one of the toughest in the NextGen era. And with the playoff picture tightening, things could get saucy this weekend. Well, hi folks, welcome back to Racin-n-Braisin. I am CJ, a lifelong NASCAR fan and chef, and we have got a lot to cover to get ready for Gateway this weekend. Today, we'll break down the weekend schedule, key storylines, and the playoff picture. We'll talk about some news of the week, and then finally round things off with a St. Louis Classic toasted ravioli, which is going to be featured on my menu this weekend. So let's get on into it. All right, well, first things first, let's talk about the schedule this weekend. Xfinity and Cup are going to be at Gateway, and this is the regular season finale for the Xfinity series. So we're not going to see any double duty drivers coming down from Cup on Saturday. However, the Cup drivers will be busy on Saturday afternoon with their practice and qualifying beginning at 4:30 Eastern on truTV. The Cup race will be Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock on USA. 300 miles, remember, 1.25 mile track, so it's going to be a pretty quick race. Bill Murray will be the Grand Marshal this weekend, so we can definitely expect to see some pre-race laughs. Once the cars do take to the track, we're going to see a very tough track. It's different on both ends. Turns 1 and 2 are much tighter, heavier on braking. Turns 3 and 4 wider. They carry a lot more momentum. The crew chiefs often say that they are setting up for 2 different tracks in one race car. Now, like I said, with turns 1 and 2 being much tighter, it does create some heavy braking, which is a challenge at times for the NextGen era car. We have seen brake rotor failures with teams not able to manage the heat cycles that go through these brakes on every single lap. The track is really only a groove to a groove and a half wide, which means with this NextGen car, we are most likely going to have a lot of single file racing. Clean air is going to be king, and track position is going to be very, very important, which means the pit crews are going to be the most important players on the track this weekend. Once they get going under green, it's probably going to stay exactly like it looks. And finally, of note for the track and the racing this weekend, Goodyear is bringing the same tire that they used at Iowa earlier this year. This is the first time they'll have it at Gateway. However, they did do a tire test here at Gateway back in June. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, and Eric Jones all participated in that. Keep in mind those names because we have seen in the past drivers that do tire tests generally perform better at a track. Now, Gateway is the second race in the first round of the playoffs, and we'll bring up the updated playoff board here. People that are on the hot seat right now, SVG, unfortunately, lost a ton of points after Darlington, so he is only +3 to the cut line, and he's never been the Gateway before, so could be an issue, but I personally think that with the flat corners and the heavy braking and the tire management that's going to be needed this weekend, he might be able to pick things up. Unfortunately for him, it's a very quick race, so he's going to have to learn fast. Also on the hot seat going into this weekend, Joey Logano and Josh Berry, both Penske drivers, and Penske traditionally has performed very well at Gateway, so they are expected to perform well. If they don't, big issues lie ahead for them going into Bristol. And then finally, the biggest hot seat of them all is Alex Bowman. His playoffs are basically on the line this weekend. If they don't perform well and make up points, they're going to be heading into Bristol in a must-win situation. Definitely going to have our eyes on those 4 drivers that are on the playoff hot seat. So let's talk about who we are watching this weekend. Now, Vegas is favoring Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. Those are pretty obvious, right? Hamlin and Bell really good on flat tracks. Larson does pretty well as well. Ryan Blaney, we know, does really well on flat tracks. And with Penske having pretty dominant cars here at Gateway, he is absolutely at the top of the list of the Vegas favorites. Now, top performers at Gateway, like I mentioned before, Joey Logano does well here. He actually has won here the first time that the Cup Series showed up at Gateway back in 2022. And he's been a consistent top 5 finisher ever since. Also, top performer here at Gateway, not in the playoffs, but a one to watch for sure, Kyle Busch. He was the 2023 winner, and he has finished top 5 and top 10. He has the best average finish in the 3 Gateway races so far of a 5.0. I do also want to mention a top performer here at Gateway, Ross Chastain. He has had runner-up finishes here at Gateway and also top 5s and top 10s in the 3 races that we've had here. So one to watch and one that also needs a good performance this weekend to keep his playoff hopes continuing in the right path. Now, ones that I would say could be called dark horses or maybe even spoilers this weekend, Brad Keselowski. He, of course, like I said, had the tire test here, so he's going to have the freshest memory of Gateway. And, RFK has been trending in the right direction, and he's really good on these flat tracks. Also, I think who could play an interesting spoiler for the playoffs this weekend is Bubba Wallace. I keep mentioning him, and they keep performing. His qualifying has done really well over the summer. If he continues to have good qualifying effort this weekend, I think that that team can keep him up front and possibly be a contender for the win. I think that would be viewed as a bit of an upset here early in the playoffs. Before we wrap things up with our food segment today, let's touch on the news of the week real quick. All week long has been focused on NASCAR, the legal battle between 2311 Front Row Motorsports and NASCAR. This week was the ruling on the preliminary injunction that was requested by the teams. It was denied as of yesterday evening. When this does go to trial, December 1st, it sounds like from everybody that's reported having been in the courtroom, things are going to get ugly. Things are going to be brought to light that could change all of our perspectives on this sport and completely alter the outlook regardless of who actually wins the case. Now, regarding all of the charters that are up for dispute, the 6 charters that these 2 teams hold, NASCAR has committed to not selling any more charters through the remainder of the season, including the 4 that they can create on their own. So we're not going to hear about anything else regarding charters through the remainder of the season, which is dwindling down pretty quick for sure. It won't be until after the trial that we start hearing about who that potential buyer was for that 37th charter. Well, let's dive into our food segment of the week. As you guys know, I like to highlight a regionally appropriate dish for everywhere that NASCAR is traveling to. This weekend with them headed to St. Louis, the obvious was to do some sort of barbecue. But you know what, guys? I've done a lot of barbecue on this channel this season, and I just wanted to do something different. So I broke out the laptop and started doing some research to find out what else St. Louis is known for. And one that surprised me, but is absolutely born in St. Louis, is toasted ravioli. Now, its origins come from the early 1940s in the Hill region of St. Louis, which is a historically Italian neighborhood. And the story goes that a Italian chef was making raviolis, and instead of dropping it into boiling water, he accidentally dropped it into a vat of oil and fried up the ravioli, and thus the toasted ravioli was born. It's been served in St. Louis taverns and bars ever since, and always with a side of marinara. So this weekend, I am going to put together a toasted ravioli recipe of my own and share with you guys how I do that on Sunday's recap video. So be sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss any future episodes and you don't miss the toasted ravioli feature on Sunday night. Now, I plan on doing my ravioli in the air fryer, but I will also talk about how to do it in the deep fryer. So plenty of information coming up on Sunday's recap video after we talk about the NASCAR race at Gateway. So before I say goodbye on that day, I want to know, have you guys tried toasted ravioli before? What's your favorite filling for it? There's 3 different options that I have found. Obviously the meat filling with either beef or pork or a combination of the 2 with a bunch of Italian seasonings and maybe some Parmesan cheese. Other fillings that I have found, of course, ricotta and garlic and herb. That is always a great Italian filling for any sort of stuffed pasta. One of the more modern ones would be spinach and artichoke dip. So I want to know what filling you guys want to see in the comments below. Whichever one of those 3 gets the most votes is the one that I am going to go with. So that'll put a wrap on today's show. A lot of information for you to digest. Let me know who you think is going to win on Sunday, and I will catch up with you after the race Sunday evening. Until then, guys, stay happy.